Julie here with Sirius Dallas Moon Mars, our moon day. Mars is in the sixth house in Taurus. Venus in the eighth house. Jupiter is in the eighth house. Moon in the fourth house, 20 degrees Pisces. And ascendant ruled by Jupiter. And the midheaven ruled by Mercury. Well, I got two things to say. One is an energy reading about the order and the mess in the bedroom from a holistic perspective. And this is about, I'm going to get to that, but the pitch line would be somebody could be having a difficulty arranging or designing their space, their intimate spaces. It could be the bathroom, it can be the bedroom. And this is because the motive for that design is erotic in the and it might not be conscious, and the energies that want to assist with that have something erotic in heart and mind. But they might not be, how should I say that? There might be a little intricacy there. It's either, and here is very intricate because it's not like somebody is trying to on purposefully get somebody mixed with things. No, it's something that um, even if there is something that there is something inner that is not there is regardless of any agenda, even if there is an agenda, but the um, either that person is not available or the things that need to be remediated together with, and it's kind of like, well, fixing that bedroom would entail more things that will arise. So one thing that I can bring about is if you have a crystal like malachite that addresses psychosexual issues that come up, and that can be fantastic at this time. And it's also um, all the meanings of the 12th house. There can be dreams, there can be, and um, it looks like that energy wants. It looks like whoever you are, the person whose bedroom is messy, let's say, or whose bathroom is messy, you are purifying those spaces in your life. Like, you're not calling for, let's say, a hidden affair or anything like that. And it's kind of like you never did. Um, but it's very clear that the mess in itself could be the boundary. So, what is trying to fix that mess? What is the intention behind the reorganization? And your halting, it's also a symbol to, if it is a union for people, it could be a symbol for how you two get along in the bedroom. But it's also connecting with fixing the physical space, the housing space of the bedroom. And it can even be that, let's say, a person was watching or viewing and they were like, hey, that person is messy, that person needs to move to another place, that person needs to, I don't know, explore their erotic space in a place that is compatible. Amazing. But what else is there? It's not eroticism for the sake of eroticism. And so it calls into question, if I think about it, how should I say that? When, okay, if I think about, let's say if we had a situation where we had to go to the shelter. So let's say I see the bathroom in the shelter is dirty. Immediately I want to clean these bathrooms. Now I could scare off people that think that I want to clean them that live in that space. Um, and this is where, if it is somebody's bedroom, it can be obviously fixing those things would be addressing the psychosexual realm. And if it's an outer planet in any of those bedrooms, it can literally mean that it connects with something to do with the world. Neither of the two might be particularly aware of it at the time where it happens, particularly if they are like amiable emotions. So there's something that's, it can be, let's say, um, however, and another thing is that somebody tries to fix something, but it doesn't yet work. Or try, for example, several times I tried to fix my room. Every time it came out more messy than the previous one. And then there would be my mother like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Wait a second, I was fixing that." So there could be an underlying issue that needs to be fixed so that the room can be well designed. Okay, there is addressing a certain trauma, and it can also be that the previous time that there was an attempt to, let's say, fix the room or fix that there was something that was completely unsuspected and naive and not knowing what is going on, and that could have played a certain dynamic that now is the boundaries are set to that dynamic. There's now more awareness. Um, and again, Venupiter at the end of Cancer is squaring the last degrees of Libra and first degrees of Scorpio, last degrees of Aries and first degrees of Taurus, last degrees of Capricorn and first degrees of Aquarius. So those would be the kind of like the hard aspects. Um, and this is, yeah. Um, Now, what was the other thing that I was going to talk about? Um, I don't know. I forgot. Um, and this was, it has something to do with success. Um, Somebody tries to pose an ultimatum that is not, that's not feasible. They have to provide conditions um, that accommodate for um, life, joy, growth, whether it's orgasmic birthing, sense of self, and more things that come about with this one. What is Mars initiating in Taurus, in the middle decan of Taurus? And this is a a union of yin and yang that is tantric. Such union purifies, because Mars here will separate from what is not, okay? And such union purifies the path. It is not working with the timelines that look at things from a courtesan partisan perspective. With Taurus, the alignment of something that is a willingly consensual union across time regarding every single encounter, the intentions in spirit and in matter, what is done with the energy. Um, it doesn't work with, how should I say that? This is why I said work with Malachite. Taurus is a fixed sign. It doesn't address things in journeys of to corrupt something that is innocent or okay, think about eating the ripe fruit. Um, Big shout out to, there is a cheetah. I'm not catcalling. It's Cheetah Claus. um, this lady, I don't have the rights for the video, so I'm going to official Cheetah Claus. She had a channeling about somebody that was perceived as somebody who was eating from the ripe apple but remain uncorrupt, meaning seeing the weird things in life, the dark things in life, but that did not corrupt their heart or their essence or whatnot. This is because to begin with, they don't look at those things from that perspective to begin with. Um, it's like I'm going to look at, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. It's like I'm going to look at a very complex mathematical problem. And people are going to try to develop an equation. And they're thinking with the best mathematical minds. And then somebody comes with thinking about the theory and have the theory making sense, and they are, yes, this was an actual case, it's true, but it's also a good example because they begin to connect the constituents of the equation to the theory, and they think about the theory and they're like, wait a second, that's not supposed to be there, and they locate them as something that was a mistake in a profoundly eloquated developed mathematical equation by geniuses upon geniuses. And they're like, they were not looking at the mathematical expression to begin with. That's why. If somebody looks at, let's say, Venus holding the apple, and it doesn't look at the Garden of Eden, it's basically Venus holding the ripe fruit. It's basically Venus saying, hey, people that went about it in any other perspective that has any preconception around the feminine will not be able to understand or communicate with that Venus. And then they might say, oh, that fruit is ripe. It's kind of remind me of the stories about colonialism where women were bathing at the sea. So they were, let's say these women lived in an island or where there is the ocean. So they went to the sea and they took off their clothes and they went, or that they saw, let's say, a ship. And so let's say they were bathing either half naked or whatnot, or naked. And they were like, well, they're removing their clothes to put them, and this is actually inspired by actual indigenous stories, to put them on the shore to go and greet the people that come with the ship. And the people on the ship think they offer themselves to them. Now, here is the thing, this deacon, the middle deacon of Taurus, would have the erotic wisdom of withdrawn consent. They would, to begin with, not just go and, oh, grab these women and so. This is why the first decan of Taurus with Venus exaltation and the moon exaltation, Venus exaltation in Taurus, Venus home sign in Taurus, Venus home degree in Taurus, is squaring the first decan of Aquarius for those that see that as the story of Genesis. Because in Genesis, there really is no willing consensual sex. And say, oh, but in the Gemara, in the this and that, whatever. And so when they see that Venus holding the apple, they think in terms of the corrupted and the uncorrupted, and they completely are ignorant of the embodied and the sensual. Mars in this decan of Taurus defends that embodied from people that think in corrupted and uncorrupted. It thinks in what is the willingly consensual union and how to create, preserve, and honor it at every single union, which is looking at things from that perspective. It's kind of like, well, as long as that union bears, let's say, ripe fruits, or as long as that union is actually willing, they don't think in other terms and Mars creates a boundary here. Now, Venus at the end of Cancer with Procyon and Jupiter is supporting of the nourishment that allows for that boundary to be. Because that creative union has to either stand the test of time or sustain something that stands the test of time. For some people, that something can be, if it was a Uranus here, I would say, oh, liberating the creative drive in people, and then one person, let's say, begins to paint, and the other person begins to, I don't know, astrologically design um, in, perfume related products. And then they're like, oh, that can be combined. When Mars here is way more conscious than Uranus. With Uranus is like we don't know where this would lead. With Mars and Venus Procyon, there's some sort of an introspection. Is this union really honoring who we are individually and together? Does this, what are the frictions? Because Mars is frictions. What are the frictions that this union or separation for people creates? What are the boundaries within which this union is mutually bearing ripe fruits? And this is not a transactional relation type of a thing. It's a tantric embodiment. Body, heart, mind, soul, spirit, economy, let's say. Okay? Abolishing human trafficking can be good enough for reason that people will rediscover or discover a tantric union together. Okay? But then again, I'm also called to remind people that Uranus is already in Gemini. Unless people have a Gemini point, um, for example, people that are coming to the Uranus return may run into those of them that have the Rahus in Gemini. They may run into people that either are frictional or supportive of that Rahu, and then they have to mutually discern which is which. Um, with Mars in this decan, it's a union that creates action, but it can also create confrontations, and it can bring about separations due to something not being that union. Now, again, Uranus has left the arena. We are preparing for Chiron domain. So it's about healing the embodied. And this is where somebody could be trying to get somebody to fix their room, but underneath that is um it's like, oh, and here is, I see also repeated situation in the background because that bedroom is a one room apartment yet again. Something has contracted to a condensed space. And what I want to say, if you resonate with the energy that is in that bedroom, in that messy bedroom, what I have to say to you is the following. Look back to COVID and think what would you keep and what would you change in those timelines. To the energy that is the energy that tries to get that somebody to fix the room. Again, look back, and also probably the situation is such, the position of Pluto could matter here a lot. The position of Uranus, we had Rahu where Uranus is. Ooh, that Uranus still matters. That Uranus still matters. Um, If you run into that Uranus now with Sedna, you come to liberate any timelines of human trafficking together or apart. It means when it comes to the use of psychiatry, it means when it comes to housing issues, it means when it comes to divorces and marriages, it means when it comes to, um, in Gemini, there is no filter. Okay? It's like, y'all both are going to be visible to degrees and extents you don't even believe. I know that the person who is in that messy room was never hiding anything to begin with. And I know about you, the person that had the messy bedroom. You weren't hiding anything to begin with. Nor not only that, this is Gemini. You were also not looking for anything bedroom related. You could have even declared yourself retired. Now, Gemini has a property. The froggy talisman of Sphere and Sundry accentuated this was a Mercury Gemini. And people like, how come, Sheila, you talk about Sphere and Sundry and this and this? Like, wait a second. It's that and 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 that. Okay? 3 years ago, there was an Epstein list out. Nobody was even thinking that there would be. People made their decisions on the basis of the world experiences that they had prior to. And that accentuation regarding that talisman, one of the things, first of all, it had there was the lucky charm. I don't know if it was an Ono de Gato or and it reminded me of the fact that staying true to ourselves doesn't necessarily mean staying in our lane. The second thing was that this talisman accentuated the type of Gemini for people that have let go of finding relations and then whoop. But Uranus here, and I'm going to be upfront about this. Uranus comes to liberate from the wealth consolidation that is made with trafficking. If you feel like something is whoop, whoop, they try to separate, it's like whoop. Or they try to get. Then that is, first of all, it can get people into overwhelming illusions and disillusions because it acts like something that sustains through trying to keep it separate. um, But I want to give you a heads up. Uranus is bijna waar ik zijn moet. Okay, it's Uranus is with Sedna. Uranus talks about if Uranus can give people weird, it can look like with Uranus the word it just happens is not an excuse. And this one is not sexual in the sense that people are not gonna grab one another's bodies and better breakfast, no, just the room. It's not those things, but because Mars here is setting certain boundaries, and Uranus, and this one could seem like the worst of worst because it seems like, hey, they're not sexual. It's not about emotional cheating or anything like that. It is life path related. And yet, Uranus comes to liberate from stagnation. What is this stagnation about with Sedna? Sedna stories. What is the decan around where Uranus is at? It's 2 meters from where? Where's Sedna? Alcyone. Something that is regardless of form, but then becomes very beautiful. The girl was turned into a dove. Can the girl stay and not be turned into a dove? Can be without being raped? um, Sedna stories wealth consolidation on natural resources and in issues of famine. Like all of us, including me, the astrologer, were thinking, oh, we're done with Uranus in Taurus. Aha! We're not done with Uranus crossing where Rahu was in COVID. If ritual abuse timelines were between people and their right relations, then the ritual abuse timelines need to go. What are the right relations? I don't know. But Uranus doesn't bother itself with whether it's a forever. It bothers itself with abolishing ritual abuse in that case. I want you to watch for the arguments that people have around this time because Mars is arguments. If somebody had an argument around wealth consolidation, it's like, oh, we're leveling up with this, with that, and so on, and we have to be charitable and do everything to kind of like both the peace, but also not give up our own, and trying to find that balance. Or Uranus is like, whoop, abolish human trafficking, abolish ritual abuse, venture into that, and that not fighting spirit, but it's a Kundalini rise spirit. That can be, oh, oh, that one again. Oh, wait a second. Now, with Uranus, as always, neither of the people involved is predicting or expecting that. Even though all the signs were leading to that.
And nobody knows what will be, in the sense that definitely it comes to liberate from that, which is a good thing. But what is it like? Oh, are the people that are met with that friction going to be like together? I don't know. And here is the what people, you know, I think about a time where I was speaking with a person that has this quality, and I thought that he was evasive. And it was like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. And I was like, now here is the thing, that person violated my boundaries. And that was my coping mechanism to ponder about that, because I couldn't address, because it wasn't that person violating my boundaries. I had to address something since infanthood I was not ready to address. If it is, if it is something that Gemini can give a duplicity, if it is something where somebody is trying to figure out which one of two people or which one of two options is the most compatible or the most compatible for the time, I want you to think about that issue regarding infancy. We had the eclipses, I think it was 2019 to 2020, that we had the eclipses in Gemini with Rao in Gemini. People had the Rao returns, the Rao reversals. People have placements in Gemini, particularly the first decan of Gemini. Or if people have, let's say somebody has a Rao in the middle decan and another person has a Rao in the first decan, or the other way around, because 2030 is going to be a big year for these people, because we're going to have Rao in Sagittarius and Rao and Ketu in Gemini. What we were going through, because I'm also one of these timelines. I was the person with the messy room, as you can guess. I'm a mess. What can I say? um, and um, what do you mean? This facial expression was giving me a 207 vibes, but it was a discussion about Scientology. But coming from the Brotherhood, okay, and um, how should I say that? It means that that issue was that issue since 2007. I don't remember what was going through this axis in 2007. Uranus, I believe, was squaring the current Uranus. Um, right now, Rao and Ketu in Virgo and Pisces accentuate. It can be that it was the Virgo Pisces. Um, I want to talk about I want to talk about the expression mindset. Okay, saying that people can set their mind to have sex without love is an act of inquisition. We cannot abolish the inquisition with that mindset. Okay? The topic, the middle deacon of Taurus, is non negotiable. Violating that is rape, with all that that entails. And this is where, if there was a conversations around 2007, because this was a timeline, and that when something about somebody was being completely honest and authentic to the level that they could, and other person from them being honest and authentic was that they noticed that that person is not bullshitting, but that they are not ready yet to hear what they have to say. It has to do with ritual abuse timelines. There was around the murder of Madeleine, Sankt Ilgen. Okay? If that person is still not ready to perceive that, then setting intention with Uranus, I mean, I don't know to tell what would be the remediary point here. Um, there can be timeline where people have certain things to do with neurodivergence or either their inner child or a child. I want to emphasize that the children that are born, the infants that were born since COVID, if people talk about, oh, they have developmental issues or they have this or they have that, check first. What about classified projects budget? What about certain technologies? What about certain rituals? How was the birthing experience? And let's just say it's not about the person that knows something about these things curating that infant. I cannot stress that one enough. Okay, if the child is acting weird, something bothers that child. A pill doesn't fix that, even if that thing is invisible. It's not about getting the child to behave, okay? That can be another issue, and that might be why certain things come up.
Um, more things. Oh, there's certain people that, let's say if you have a Pisces ascendant, you have Rahu in your first house. It means that certain people are coming to themselves in the sense that it's less accentuating of one-to-one partnerships. Um, Depending on the placements of Jupiter's. Oh, another thing I wanted to talk about, there can be certain timelines where certain people could either have a solar return or a talisman in a like kind of like, oh, there was a great Jupiter Venus talisman election with Jupiter Venus around Procyon and the ascendant in Cancer. Okay, whoop! Now somebody's wearing a talisman with an ascendant in Cancer. Or somebody could have a solar return. For example, I have a solar return with ascendant Gemini. And I remember there was a time where I had a solar return with ascendant Scorpio, um, and that was a very weird time to begin with. The moon in the solar return can be very significant, and so people could be experiencing certain experiences of others that are not manufactured artificially by anything, except that this is just their solar returns, or that somebody created a talisman because it was a good election for a talisman. I also want to emphasize the tip of not manifesting an individual is amazing tip. If people were forced into practices that would resemble that, remember that your inner intention was not of that. There was something that was trying to take over your inner intention. And Uranus here can liberate from that. Um, Now, with Venus and Jupiter here, it can be that certain people are beginning, for example, Jupiter is a teacher. So certain people may be acquiring the Jupiterian qualities of their teachers, and they are learning the discernment of what to embody and what, for example, if you think about our parents, we're not going to be exactly like our parents. With Venus, it can be certain people are beginning to embody this particular Venus qualities. If somebody, for example, was, I don't know, for me, Jupiter is in the fifth house. Um, Somebody was having this Venus in their fifth house, or somebody could have been infatuated with the person they have qualities of that particular Venus, then they might see
themselves, if they, let's say, work with a talisman, they might see themselves, because a lot of people are doing talismans today, embodying those qualities, and it can, for example, shift their thinking to address, are they actually attracted to that person beyond this quality? For example, let's say a disembodied man can be completely infatuated with a Venus Taurus, and he would think that he's into her because she's rejecting him, but that Venus is just aligned with her yes, no, and maybe or embodiment, or beginning to align, or they both curate that, or and what they're basically attracted to is that sense of embodiment. Once they are in that sense of embodiment, they might even discover that, I don't know, let's say they're not of the same sexual orientation. Because Taurus is a return to senses. Um, so those can be other trajectories that are happening in the sky right now. Mars here can bring a conflict to be addressed, or can um, several times, but Mars is also in sign of Venus an initiator. And there is something that can be more with Procyon. I'm not using the word equal with Procyon, but equitable. What's the difference between equality and equity? Equality is about you served in the army, I served in the army. They don't serve in the army. Equity is about bringing complementary things to the table. It's about, let's say, it's about bringing the stool for the child to stand up on in the family picture. Or, hey, that guest is neurodivergent. We need to have a noise sensitive room and also a noise or an open space they can accommodate for them having kind of their zoning out. Oh, hey, that person is um, seeing orgasmic birthing as life transitions, and they're recovering from trauma, so they need to be accommodated in an extra safe space that is also extra spacious and is also not to be misunderstood or misinterpreted. Because they're recovering from infanthood sexual trauma. And maybe they were thinking that they were designing or manifesting that space, and people either knew that that was the case and they were doing different things with that, or um, with Venupiter, we're going to need to accommodate for certain beliefs and have them not colliding with one another in a way that the friction would situate the person that is either being preferred or not